بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First of all, I would like to say I miss you guys. It's been a while since I did Friday Night Lights. And thank you for all of those who have sent me messages, Sheikh, we missed you, and those who didn't care about me not coming. I thank you both. You know, especially Sheikh Kamal, never said anything.
I told those people to tell you that.
Okay. Which group?
The other one.
The one?
Not this one.
Okay. طيب. Brother, this side for the sisters, so you go this side. Jazak Allah Khayr. Today, it's talking about what masculinity means in Islam. And I think this is a very interesting topic. I believe, there is a lot of, national figures who, talk about this topic a lot lately, became Muslims. Everybody, talking about this, there's so many things going on the social media about this topic lately. And I will be honest with you, I think that's a very good topic to talk about. Because many different, reasons. Because like many other topics, it's one of these things that people can go to either extremes. But I think this is a problem that I have seen a lot as somebody who who older, seeing young generations, have kids, who belong also to different generations. And I've seen the difference between all these different generations and how they deal with this topic, brothers and sisters, from a different perspective. So I hope that I will be more listening, more than talking today, at least because I'm very happy that we have with us Sheikh Kamal, my right-hand side, and also our guest here, Sheikh Abdurrahman. Sheikh Abdurrahman said he's from New York, from Brooklyn. I guess that's why you picked the topic, that's right? Okay. And also he, alhamdulillah, studied in Al-Azhar, has a Sharia degree in Arabic language and Islamic studies. He also very involved with youth. He's mentor, director for youth, imam. You name it, for Mass, I believe, in Brooklyn, which is a beautiful place. I have visited them so many times before over the years, alhamdulillah. So we'll have a very fruitful discussion. I'm looking forward to hear from you guys about this topic as well and to hear your perspectives about it. But let me start with Sheikh Rahman and ask first, tell me, when did you graduate from Al-Azhar?
So I actually was at Al-Qura University.
Al-Qura?
Yes.
Even better.
In Mecca.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah.
Mecca, I mean. Yes.
So I don't know if we have the
Why somebody told me Al-Azhar?
They may have done it because I'm Egyptian. That's probably
why.
Just the immediate.
Yeah. Okay. Al-Qura. That's nice. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
I read it Al-Azhar.
No, I figured. It's a common people.
Sheikh Ammar.
Make the assumption. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't have the school pride.
He's not here, so it's
that's
okay.
Easy. Yeah. Well, he's from New York too. He'll have to catch up.
So Al-Qura. That's interesting.
Sure.
Jamiat Al-Qura. When did you graduate?
2017.
2017. Have you ever felt jealous of those who studied in Medina because you're in Mecca? Or you felt you're better?
I was about to say we don't have the inter-school pride that you guys will have here in the U.S., but I guess it's coming out now. The Medina, of course.
We have in Riyadh. I'm from Jamiat al-Imam.
Okay.
We consider both of you guys lower class.
Well,
just kidding.
Well, for us, we took pride in the fact that we follow Jamiat al-Imam's curriculum,
yes.
in fiqh particularly.
Yes.
So that was my major in fiqh wa usul fiqh. So,
nice.
So I mean, I guess in that case, maybe you can take me under your wing in that case.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, can you imagine Jamiat al-Medina when you start, just to start fresh off the boat, as we say, and he starts with Bidayat al-Mujtahid. I mean, it makes no sense.
Challenge.
I don't know. Anyway, But alhamdulillah. So you study fiqh in Jamiat al-Quran. Man, what year you graduated?
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay. How many years it took you to study there?
7.5, just in doing the Arabic and then.
Not all of them in bachelor.
I'm sorry?
Just kidding.
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, the
Arabic studies, then after that, 4 years in bachelor.
Of course, yeah.
Excellent. So you actually cut Mecca, or you lived in Mecca when there is not much things in Mecca, that's right?
The crazy part, and everyone says it, but the amount of change that has happened since I've left just the past 5-6 years is insane. When we go back for Umrah, if Allah bless us, I get to see it. It's a new place. Doesn't feel the same anymore.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I mean, just living in Mecca, it's a great blessing.
There's nothing.
Also, it's scary a little bit.
Yeah.
Can Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he used to say, I don't want to live in Mecca because the sin in Mecca is like 100 outside Mecca. So he used to be scared of living in Mecca. But in any way, there is also great reward, multiplied reward. Just praying in Haram, being in Mashayikh al-Haram Mecca is just an unbelievable experience. Alhamdulillah, very nice. Makkah ya Abuya.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I can have that honor.
Alhamdulillah. طيب.
Speaking, Sheikh, of the masculinity topic, I just saw, so one of our Sheikhs, Imams al-Haram, Sheikh Hassan Bukhari, I literally just saw on my feed a picture of him standing with Khabib, the boxer, the fighter. I'm like, where is this coming from? How's he with him in this picture? But it's showing up now to making it rounds. So
nice. Sheikh Kamal.
No.
What is masculinity is about? What's this word means?
Oh, so
to both of you guys, but
okay. I mean, I don't know if I have a good definition. Do you have a good definition of it?
Are we doing the Islamic, Jami' Mana definition, or are we doing? I
think we'll do that one.
Interesting.
Because I'll tell you why.
I set myself up.
Yeah. So the reason I said that is that I mean it's a combination of things. It's a combination of different things and values, right? And the reason I said the Islamic one is that, as we were talking earlier, so in the West, like with almost every topic, they start off at one extreme. And then when they realize they're wrong, they don't go to the middle, they go to the other extreme. And I have examples, and some of them are like PG something, not 8 at least. But something will be really frowned upon, and then they go all the way to the other extreme. They don't go to the middle. Same thing with masculinity, like you have where it's, I don't like to use the term toxic, but it's all about, not showing your feelings, not this, not this, not that. And now they realize that was too much. Now they're trying to play games. And instead of going to the middle and say, okay, let's keep it balanced, now they're saying, oh, there's no such thing as gender. It's just because you gave your boy a gun and a truck, he became a boy, and your girl, because you gave her a doll, she became a doll, which is absolute nonsense. I mean, anyone who's had children knows this is absolute garbage. But the point is that they're now trying to say, oh, there's no such thing as masculinity, and that, or not no such thing, but try to make it look bad and try to redefine it in a very extreme way. And that's why the Islamic definition is good, because you're, like we see the Prophet ﷺ, the best man ﷺ, and he would cry and he would tell his friends, I love you, and all those kinds of things. But before I get into that, just give us your...
But I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Because, for example, when we talk about femininity, some people, we do two different channels. I'm talking about something, and somebody talk about something else. Some talk about liberal, talk about democracy. These terms are very loaded.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that what we are here, so the audience understand what exactly we mean by masculinity here when we talk.
I think the best thing that I was able to come across is, so again, within the realm of, as Sheikh Kamal mentioned, of the Islamic approach to masculinity, femininity, I would argue that it is, so let's say masculinity, it is traits that are either present naturally or that Allah prefers or loves to see in a man or a male. And similarly for femininity, it would be the exact opposite. Traits that are either Allah creates within, or that made them predisposed towards, or that He would love to see from a female.
Very good. And when we talk about these traits, we talk about traits that are very, very specific to men, or can be common between men and women?
I've
or both?
Yes,
Someone
I
said?
found that praiseworthy traits, all the traits that Allah praises in the Quran, effectively everything that I've come across, so I would argue all the traits are found in both men and women. It's just the way that we express them are different. So for example, haya, modesty. Haya is 100% expected from both genders, but the way that it's expressed, that's where the differences occur.
Very beautiful. Very good.
Um,
Okay.
طيب, I wanted to. There was a study, and they asked young men, high school age, what makes a man? Give me a list of things that make a man. These are things they actually said.
Can you ask these guys?
Okay, let's hear it. What makes a man? You know what? It fails every time I do this in an Islamic setting. It doesn't work because they know what I'm looking for. So they start saying, taqwa, salah. We did it before. Okay, go ahead. Let's hear it. تفضل.
No,
Okay.
exactly as you said.
Nice. أيوة.
The ability
Yes,
to
salam.
control your anger. I'm just so because I have a lot of people on the audience. Yeah, they're back there.
Leading and protecting your family. Leading the family, huh? I like that. أيوة. Malik. نعم. Providing. Okay. Abdullah.
I was going to say sabr, like it kind of goes
Sabr.
with patience, yeah.
Sabr makes a man, huh? So, okay. Go ahead. No, good. A mu'min.
Having courage in the face
Having
of uncertainty.
courage in the face of uncertainty.
That's a good one.
Okay. Sisters, what makes a man? Facial hair. Naam? Dependability, okay. Nice.
Very nice.
I heard honesty.
All right, so let me read what these high school students said. So, what is a man or what makes a man? They said athletic ability. Yeah. Being buff, being muscular. Six pack, having a six pack. Making money. And that's why those guys come and they're doing this all the time, showing you that I have money, I'm a man, I'm kid is successful. So they said economic success and also certain conquests, zina related, makes them a man. Disaster.
Yeah.
And then anger. That's his weird.
His ability to pick up girls.
Aywa.
Okay.
Yeah, and the longer the list, the more of a man he is. And that's why they boast about it. I mean, people who know rap music know everything on this list. That's all it is. That's all it's about. Money, how tough you are, you bust a cap in somebody, ما أعرف إيش. That's all it is. And okay, anyways, I don't want to take up all the, but this is a big deal. This is how they see a man. And then there's things that were not manly, that like things like love, kindness, smiling. If someone is by like let's just say street man standards, slightly effeminate, he becomes a mama's boy. It's a bad thing to be a mama's boy, even though 3 times in Islam, your mother, right? Then your father. Things like if someone is in drama club or he's a thespian, what happens? The jocks make fun of him. And what's the description of a jock? Same stuff in the list.
Yeah.
You know, he gets the cheerleader, he's muscular, شعارف إيش, probably dumb as a rock, but that's the jock. So it starts early. Then sorry, but look, I'm telling you, there was like they show you how the male deals with heartbreak in the movies, or like that movie where the guy comes home and his wife and his son is dead. What does he do? He cries very little, right? He cries a little bit, but then that sorrow turns to
Anger.
anger instantly, and you get that shot, the camera from up top, and he screams, "No!" or he screams the name of the guy, and then the rest of the movie, he's butchering everyone down the street until he gets to that guy at the end, and he throws him into a sharp pole. That's it. That's the movie.
Too much Bollywood movie.
Huh?
Man.
That's just Hollywood, yeah, shit. And because I don't play video games, when they looked at masculinity and how it's presented in the video games, it's always this. You guys tell me this. It's always this guy. He's buff, and he's got broad shoulders, big jaws, and he's got that 5 o'clock shadow. It's not a full beard. He's not Sunni yet, and he's not that smooth, sweet guy. كده كده rough كده. صح ولا لا؟ Am I right or what?
Yeah.
Huh? And big guns, of course. Big guns. So this is just the beginning. This is what we're dealing with. We're still going to get
That's
into.
the image of, even the word masculinity is about, yani,
There's
for me,
something.
when I heard the first time the word as non-English speaker, I was thinking about muscles, like it's coming from somebody who is masculine, like they have a big muscle. So it's a very physical. But I will argue that men physically different than women.
Yeah.
That's, if a woman looked like a man, I mean, that will not be something good. That's why in Islam she doesn't dress like a man. We don't dress like a woman, and Allah created us so different. This is biology, So being masculine in the sense that because men are supposed to be defender, most supposed to be provider, work harder. That's what they're supposed to be. So that's why physically Allah created them in a different way.
But today, even with Muslim audiences, this doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
Even with practicing Muslim women, they hear that and like, I know women who are strong. No, that's not what we're saying here. There's probably one woman named Fifi somewhere who can beat up a guy. But generally, that's not the case. And it's just, the other day, this is maybe a few years ago, I was on a plane, last time I was on a plane. This lady's coming in, has got a whole bunch of things in her hands. And she's got her carry-on, and while she's holding all this stuff, she's trying to put with one hand, trying to put the carry-on up. And I've already sat down, my hands are free. So I got up.
Like a gentleman.
That's how I roll. So I got up and I put it. Best. She goes, oh, thank you very much. I usually am a very strong, independent woman, but my hands were tied up. I wanted to tell her, don't worry, deep down we're all strong, independent women. What is this nonsense? I just helped you with your bag. It doesn't make you weak or anything. But then that's also how women have been trained to see that if the man helps you, that means you're the helpless damsel in distress. No. If it were a man and his hands were filled, I would have helped him also. It's the same thing. It's not about you being a man or a woman. But this is not how it's become now. And so Muslim women will come to you and say, why can't a woman marry four? Like, wait till you marry one, see how much you hate him, and then ask me if you want three more. Or why do the men pray in the front? Like, you're a Muslim, you don't know why the men pray in the front? You don't know? For this is what I'm talking about, so the masculinity, at some point they hate it, but at the same time, they want to be a man. Everyone's trying to be a man. Okay, we're getting go ahead. Somebody save me.
No.
Sheikh, I think it's all. I think all we're going to be going around the same issue, which is, I remember at the beginning of there was a seerah book that I was reading, and it was saying that in the foreword, the intro, he said, all movements. The Sheikh who had written the book, said, all movements in history have come out as a reaction to a previous movement. And he gave the example. It was written in the 80s, so he gave an example of capitalism and socialism and so on and so forth. So he said. And they constantly bounce from one extreme to another, exactly as you mentioned. So, and he continued, he said, except for the movement of straight from Deen, al-Ilahiyya, something that's coming straight from God, the divinely inspired message, and that's coming irrespective of right or left. It's coming with the truth, and it will always be, you'll always find the center balance there. And I think it speaks exactly to what you're saying. As long as somebody is constantly thinking of their role in comparison to somebody else's role or another category of people's role, they will never get it right. And even if they hit right, like this woman telling you, she had to explain, hey, just to be clear, I could have done it myself in other circumstances. She didn't need to do that, but she felt obligated because I need to let him know, in comparison to him or other men or so on, I'm also strong. And that's what they're teaching young men and women today. It's that it needs to be in comparison to something else. You always feel incomplete. You always feel like you can achieve something. And you feel like the woman who, I don't know who it is, but whoever got the highest, weightlifting in the Olympics, the woman, right? She is the strongest woman in the world. That's amazing. That's a huge, goal. But as long as you're comparing it to someone or another category of people, men, who are completely, utterly biologically different than you, you're gonna feel, less than, and like you didn't achieve that much, and it wasn't that big of a deal. No, it was. And you'll never be men can't compete in who has the most, who gave the birth to the most kids. It's just biologically not capable. So as long as they are keeping us comparing to one another, we always feel inadequate, and that's where they get you.
I just want to say something to all my brothers here. You know how we say you don't demand your respect, you earn your respect? You don't demand masculinity and manhood, you earn it. You have to earn it. Like, if you really want to be treated like a man, you need to act like one. If you want to be seen as a man who have this, status and specialty, quality and traits and, man, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have put very unique special to men. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have favor men in many areas, as He favored women in so many areas as well. And بما فضل الله به بعضكم على بعض. Allah have favored some of you over others. Give you tasks, He didn't give it to women. He gave tasks and responsibilities to you as man, He didn't give it to women. So, but that's something you have to learn how to earn it. It's just not because you have a production tools to impregnate women, make you a man directly. You're a male, that's fine. But we talk about something beyond just the physical, part here. Much bigger than this, and much more important than this as a trait, as we said earlier. So I think this is, for me, a very important point, that I'm gonna earn that. I need to stand up for this. I need to work to reach that level. And that's a big responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have. There's a big difference between a biological father and a dad. There is a big difference between a mommy and just a mother who gave birth to a child. You have to earn that mommy status, daddy status. You have to earn that, that level of being real man, real leader, real, qawama, which is leadership, and basically that's state that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have created you to reach and to achieve in your life.
Sheikh, on that note, the difference between, so I believe in, please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that part of our test in this life, and Allah gave this test to men and to women, and it's different. It's the same test, but we handle it differently, or we deal with it differently, is that in our jibillah, in our creation, in our biological nature, we are either predisposed to, or we're more inclined to certain behaviors, or it's in us. So for example, for men, we're biologically much more likely to be aggressive, or we're much more likely to celebrate aggression. Like, we like to watch fighters and all that stuff, and be hyper competitive. And part of the traits of toxic masculinity is an obsession with anger. And so it's the exact opposite of what Islam dictates. So if somebody has less control over his anger, he's perceived as more manly, because he explodes much quicker, but beats people up, and doesn't tolerate anything. He's a real man. That's the exact opposite. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Laysa shadidu bis-sur'a," right? The strong man is not the one who can win the fight. The strong man is the one who can hold himself in the anger. So men are predisposed, but males in general are predisposed or more inclined to certain behaviors that Islam does recognize them as toxic if it goes too far, right? The inability to control anger, aggression, vanity, or whatever is the case. And women similar, right? Vanity is another one, but that would be, I guess, specific to women. Islam, Allah commands us, or commands women particularly, to hide her beauty when she steps out of the house, and so on and so forth. And there's a natural desire not to do that, natural desire to show off, where part of your test is to fight that, and so on and so forth. So each gender is tasked with their own specific tests while being predisposed to do this. So you're going to have to fight off your natural inclination because you recognize and you acknowledge it to be wrong. I think that's
controlling
great.
it,
Yeah.
but it's not to strip it completely, that's the opposite. Like, and I think about I'm not expert in history of culture and stuff like that, but from what I know, and I think that's something also across the board in every culture, there is so much abuse to women through history. There's no doubt men abused women through history. It wasn't for nothing. The Prophet ﷺ died before he died. He said, "I ask you to take care of women. حق الضعيفين." They are basically weak. They've been taken advantage of, been abused. Okay, so that's why there's so much emphasis on the importance of protecting them and protecting their right. But that doesn't take me to the other end, to the other opposite.
Yeah.
That I make women above men, or controlling men, or I take the strength and the basically what the quality of men away just to make them like feminine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wants to create men and women one thing, He will create us just one thing. But He creates something called male and creates something called female. There is a lot of commonality, but there is also differences in the way they express themselves, the way they carry themselves, the quality, physical and emotional, and in all aspects, and responsibilities as well. And some of them are shared, some of them are different from one to another. So I think let's go back to the issue of just being a reaction to it. Jamil, what is missing today in boys to be real men?
Let me build up to that. So going back to when I said earlier, very quickly, I mentioned like kindness is like not masculine. Smiling, perceived by young males, is not very masculine. I'll tell you something interesting, Sheikh Wali. We'll have kids like you who grew up in this masjid, and they're young and they just come running up to me and hugs and all this, and they're always naughty and smiling and running. The minute they hit 13, 14, and then they listen to more rap music, they just walk by me, kid. When they give me salam, just kid. Yeah, how many workshops did we do? And some of the guys here took it on how to give salam properly and look people in the eye and raise your voice and ask about how they're doing and smile in their face. Some of you took them, and I'm looking at some faces in here. Because I was sick and tired of these teenagers. Lish, because the male, they call it in the streets, I know about the streets. It's called hard. خلاص كده. They're stoic, they're quiet, they don't show a lot of emotion, no smiling. I used to take the bus in this very thug part of town, and I'm coming off the boat from Sudan and stuff. I smile at people and they'll just give you these dirty looks and stuff, because that's what the male does. I don't smile at another male, not a puppy. Give you this dirty look, you give me a dirty look. I don't even know you. And people give me dirty looks like I've never met you before. What's your problem, yeah? But that's the male thing, right? And
that's a New York thing.
Huh?
It's a New York.
So when you have a boy, he's born, he starts to walk a little bit, you teach him what? You throw a jab, throw a punch, punch, okay? And then you tell him, don't cry. Because boys don't cry. So boys don't cry. He's 4 and he wants to get it out. Oh, hey, don't cry. And I admit this is a problem I have until now. I hate crying. I hate when children cry. Because, in Sudan, it's a little toxic. Everything is about masculinity. So, and I always say, I grew up around the world, and then I was in Europe, and then from Europe we went to Sudan. That was really my first time to live in Sudan. And it was the first day of school, and this guy I barely know, because I'm just my first day, he goes, "Are you a man?" This is 7th grade. I said, "Yes." He said, "Punch the wall as hard as you can." It was a brick wall. And I remember asking to myself, what does this have to do with being a man? And that's actually just proving that I'm stupid if I hit this wall.
I guess that's what it is.
But yeah. So everything is about being a man. So you don't cry, you don't shake, you don't shiver. But now let's go to, no, of course not. So if your friend now has a problem, all right, and they're feeling hurt, generally, a male cannot talk to his friend about his feelings. He has to keep them bottled inside. You can't come and say, I'm feeling really sad and stuff. The guy will be like, oh, let's go play a video game. Anything, I don't want to hear about your sob story. And when males don't sit and talk to each other like that, that's so problematic, because the Prophet ﷺ, when he came after the Battle of Badr, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebuked the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr included for their decision on how to deal with the captives after Badr. He found them both crying. So he asked, what is making you cry? Because if it involves me, I'll cry with you. And if it doesn't involve me, it's so beautiful. He says, Bakaytu li bukaikuma. I'll cry because you're crying. And look, and this is Umar, the one that we're always narrating weak narrations about him chopping people's heads off. This is Umar. When I say, tell me a man in Islamic history, the first thing you're going to say, Umar ibn Khattab. And he's saying, I'll cry because you're crying. So I love how in Islam there's this wonderful balance. It's not just you're stoic, you don't show emotions, you don't talk about your feelings, but you can do both. And look at the example of the Prophet ﷺ, look at the companions if you're ever confused. That's how the male is.
They had just come from battle too, so nobody can say anything about.
Absolutely.
Like that's the balance. They just came from battle. They won a historic battle, and well, here's the crying, the balance, the counter balance of it. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, so what do you think Shaykh Abdurrahman is missing? What we are here trying to accomplish? What the message that we, like, if we can take a few things that you think, or the brothers can, even the sister can talk about this as well. I would like to hear from them. What is missing today?
I think
What's
Shaykh,
the problem with masculinity today?
I think Shaykh if I were to, there's a lot of ingredients of course missing, but one, if I were to narrow down one essential ingredient, it would be a good example. People, as much as you teach, as much as we learn, we've all read books and we read about Umar, we read about Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, etc. We just need someone in our community, someone, mahsus, that we can feel, we can, tangible, and model it for me. And I want to feel proud of the way you act. We all feel proud of the way the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ acted. No one can dare call him weak and so on. Look at the Habib, the example, he's such a solid example, of course, putting aside the fiqh opinion about punching in the face and that kind of thing. But look at how he acts outside of the ring. His humbleness, and he has made like Muslims so proud of being humble versus like these people, these UFC fighters.
Arrogant.
You have to sell the match, right? You have to be as arrogant as possible. And you see that like the first sign of what's popular out there, because unless we're just spending an hour like research what's going on Twitter and TikTok and whatever, the first sign, the people who are going to inform you of what's popular is 14-year-olds in your community, right? You can see how they're acting, what are the phrases they're saying, and I have to look it up on Urban Dictionary, and then now you know what's going on. So when they're being arrogant and they're being rude and disgusting, it's Conor McGregor was the popular guy. And then all of a sudden, Khabib comes out and he's humble and he's thanking Allah and he's grateful and he only goes as far as he needs to, but he puts people in their place. So he has the strength, but he has all these Islamic traits. So if I were to narrow it down, we need examples. We need people that we feel proud of, because when you're proud, when you see value and you're proud of this, you're going to follow it, especially as a teenager, as a young man.
So if I'm a teenager boy or I'm a young man and I feel I'm a man of the house, but you know what? You don't work, you don't earn, you don't provide for your family. You know what? You don't help your parents, you don't take responsibility, you don't act like a role model.
Yeah.
So that doesn't go with saying I'm a man.
It's a mismatch, yeah. It's just how they
Good.
want to feel.
It's not biology, right? So my message would be like, number one, don't take the example of a male from celebrities, from movies, from rap songs, from these people who put this fake facade or this fake mask on. And we did an exercise here in the masjid with the youth. It was really beautiful. Everyone got a piece of paper that had a mask on it. And I still have them. I was just reading through them. It just had a mask, and you had to write down the mask you present to people. So some of our youth wrote down that, everything is okay, I'm brave, I'm confident, this. Then I said, okay, now this is what you're faking to people. Flip it to the other side. And there were no names written, nobody knows who wrote what. And then on the other side, write down how you really feel. That same guy who says, I'm confident, wish I had girls like me, all this nonsense. On the other side, I'm very insecure, I'm always afraid, I this, I that. And so now you have to act. So don't act, but also don't be a sissy. That came up so bad. Look, I'll tell you, because look, in Islam, we have something known as khawarim al-muru'ah. And these are things that take away from your chivalry, from your
dignity.
Dignity, your presence, right? And the scholars go through things. There are certain things, they're not haram, but they're just not appropriate. And some things are not manly. And yes, you can always say, well, who has the manly definition and who wrote this dictionary on what is manly? No, people wrote it over.
I think it's a culture thing.
Yes, culturally is what I was going to say. Yeah. So, but there are also some things now, like a lot of times, and again, I'm willing to admit it could be my Sudanese background. I'm willing to admit that, all right? So don't get too upset. But like a lot of times I'll see a guy talking and be like, how is this guy a man? Okay, too soft. And I'm sick and tired of the hair that's half covering the eyes. Khalas already. Be a man already. Yusuf goes. But wallah, it's just, you go to school and you just see this guy and he's got this very girly hairstyle. And the whole time I'm talking to him, واعمل لي كده. انت فاكر نفسك shampoo commercial انت ولا ايش؟ خلاص يا اخي. Be a man a little bit. All the time just fixing كده واعمل لي كده, and the hairs are coming down like in the movies. Enough already. Be a man.
Animate. Is it? That's
the
how-
anime فاكر نفسه مش عارف ناروتو ولا نافوتو منزل لي. Enough already. But there's also something important about being, like, presenting yourself in a proper way, not too يعني, yeah, where do you draw the line at?
What if said that doesn't mean, like, is it a cultural thing? Like,
Sheikh, I would
what's
argue,
the most unmanly thing for you, Sheikh Abdurrahman, to see in the youth? That's really not like so like the opposite of being a man.
okay, if I were to put it in a word, insecurity. I know this is completely different than the feminine qualities we're talking about.
Oh, you're going, I'm going physical.
Yeah,
You're
like a clear. Well, the thing is, like, the
Insecurity.
Yeah. So I would say, the concern with these, I think we living in the 21st century, 2022, right? And I'm from New York, where it's a lot more liberal than here. You guys have in Texas, where there's some things that people just pretend they don't see or they don't understand, like what certain feminine qualities, certain masculine qualities, like, oh, I don't, I can't talk about that, or like, come on, is that really feminine, or is that really masculine? Come on, what are we going to go backwards here about basic biology or basic, when you, like Sheikh Kamal said, if you're raising kids, you have a boy, you have a girl, there's just inclinations. You don't have to teach them to be more feminine or more masculine. There's basic inclinations. Like your son is a lot more aggressive, and the way they fight, if you have two sons, they're fighting all the time from 2 years old, and your daughter is not like that, right? And she's more inclined to nurturing behavior. She has a little doll, or she makes a doll on her own. So like, I think we've gone off the deep end of pretending these things don't exist, these basic biological differences.
Yeah.
That's
And
one
we
thing.
only pick on the fringe.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a daughter who like cars. Yeah, but that's like one or like wrestling, but that's not the common thing.
not the
It's
standard.
like, oh, there is a person confusing about, like, I was talking to some Muslim these days, just an extension a little bit, and she was telling me, oh, Sheikh Walid, this whole gender identity stuff like that. There is somebody I know committed suicide because they were worried about what their gender is, so trying to protect. I mean, yeah, that's one in like, don't make that the norm, and you have to make every single kid in the school have to go for a week training what your gender is.
Yeah.
It's just, somebody was arguing with me that everybody in the school has to be given the chance to figure out their gender. Why? Because there is like some kid was confusing, and because we didn't give them a chance.
As opposed
And
to,
I'm not saying that kid has no value.
No, for
It
sure.
has a value and it has its space to be dealing with. But you don't ruin the whole entire society for just one in a million.
It's a basic rejection.
الشواذ لا تبنى عليه قاعدة عندنا. Yeah.
I want to share the
So sorry, but I cut you off. I like what.
No, I think it's on the same note. It's like the concept of, there's a term for it in logical fallacies, where you take a fringe concept and you start considering it the default, where it's the exact opposite in fiqh and usul, right? And in logic, it's just a logical premise is that, hey, if we do have a percentage of people who have gender identity issues, and it's 0.0 whatever percent, and it exists in the fiqh books from 1,000 years ago, right? Where it's like, okay, how about we dedicate resources amongst society to give them resources and to help them through their situation, as opposed to saying, all right, guys, new rule for everybody. You all don't know your gender until further notice. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in the schools, where it's like you give the kids, and then their legislation and so on. It just gets deeper and deeper and more polarized.
Yeah, sorry, Sheikh.
So there's one thing that some guys do, and it is so girly and unacceptable to me. But I've never opened my mouth publicly. I've never told a guy, hey, take that off. But it's just insanely girly to me. That's like putting on a dress. Guys with long hair, again, You know, girls wear this thing. I don't know what it's called. It has little teeth on it, kida. It looks like a, and they push it, kida, up to here. Wallahi al-azim, when I see a man wearing that, I want to end him. I cannot step. كيف يعني? How could you do that? So
I didn't get it. Is the clip one?
it's a thing, kida. What is it called? Headband, and then they push it. خليها كده بس لغاية هنا.
You know, Sheikh,
Put lipstick on أحسن لك. You'll be more of a man to me if you put lipstick and come to me.
you know, Sheikh, what if they start making one with the basketball team logo on it? Then it'll be manly.
They could put a gun on it. It'll still be too ridiculous.
Okay. What else so unmasculine to you, Sheikh?
Okay, so I think we're arguing. We want to bring like physical, actual traits, right? I think you might have to come back to me on this.
Sometimes examples kind of get it.
Yeah,
I got another one. But this is so common. But shaving. That's the difference between us and the females. This stuff right here. Why do you remove everything? And you come to me trying to look like you were born yesterday. Why? That's like the major difference between appearance-wise. The beard, yeah. That's a big deal. But I don't go around telling people, hey brother, but come on man, something here, something, anything.
طيب, Sheikh Kamal, what about traits, not physical?
Oh, just let me clarify, especially when the guy is young and he shaves. يعني في some people, they're old men كده, they shave everything. Oh, no matter what, it's a disaster. But you got this guy, he's 16 and he's already smooth skin, ويجيك زي Jennifer ولا Edwina ولا fill any name, Catherine, Caitlin, nothing كده, and he's already young and he's 16. Have some ruggedness, ya habibi. Have some ruggedness there. But these values see, what I'm saying now is just funny, because this idea of like ikhshawshanu, or this idea of, have a manly appearance is just, what is this? A man isn't that, and man is.
But it's interesting. I travel with Sheikh Kamal. Sheikh Kamal will hold everything off until and any Sudani is like that. He will never walk out the house or the hotel room until he iron his clothes. It's amazing. How committed he is to this. Drive me crazy. Sometimes when we travel. Also, Sudanese like that. Will never walk out with a thobe, or it's like some brothers, I see them in the parking lot, poke the trunk looking for a thobe. Okay. Then he put it on when he go to the masjid. He gets his stuff from the car. Or someone I know has his shirt and his backpack for a week in his car and just get it. Then he put it on. Why I'm saying this about Sheikh Kamal? Because when he says about this whole care so much about like look and it's not coming from someone who doesn't care about his look. Look, mashallah. So, what here is, the point is not the look. The point is when men became so obsessed about it, became number one important for me is to make sure that it became too much. It became basically. There is a sense of profitness, because what it meant for men will work. Men will have a hard work. Tomorrow you need to provide for your family. You're not gonna have time to, you're not gonna have the money to, when you have family, to support every 10 days you go to a haircut, spend $50 in the mall. You're not gonna be able to do that every time. You're not going to be able to, to be so like soft. It cannot. That's basically. It's not about being soft or being look this. It's about, in my opinion, when you grow up and this became your priority, the real priorities that is supposed to you taking care of, it will be kind of hard to make that decision. How to make that, to set your priorities straight. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was upset with someone. He said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if you have a hair, take good care of it. Man kana lahu sha'r falyukrim. But he was upset with one of the companions. He said, I need so and so. They call him, Ya Rasulullah, he's fixing his hair. Like cutting his hair, braiding his hair. Next time, where is so and so? He said, Ya Rasulullah, he's home fixing his hair. 3 times. So Nabi Sallallahu was not happy with that. So Nabi was not against that you take care of your hair, but it became obsessed with this. You know, it became like as if this is what, priority number 1 for me before I go out. So I hope that's kind of.
I think that's really fair.
It's a balance. Literally everything we've spoken about today can just be brought right back to the concept of balance. Because I think, so for example, ikhshawshinu, as Sheikh mentioned earlier, which is have a degree of roughness in the way that you live, right? I think maybe, let me ask you, Sheikh, this question for your sons. If you have a son who's 16 and a daughter who's 16, which of them do you prefer to go out and get a minimum wage job?
No doubt the son.
What about you, Sheikh?
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. And if Allah blesses me with children, that's exactly, like I've already said from now, is that my son, as soon as he's a teenager, you're going to go get a minimum wage job. You're going to learn how it is to serve people and learn the value of a dollar. I don't feel that way for my daughter. You know, I don't feel that way because that's not her role in life. Yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule. There's always like, well, life might take her there, and that's why alhamdulillah, we all believe in educating our daughters and making sure they're capable and so on. But there's one of the two where their entire role, and that's why like people take the primitive cue that is supposed to speak to what it's supposed to be about. So the athleticism of a man is because biologically and historically and socially, men has to be out there, and physical labor was the primary way you worked, and you had to be a warrior, and you had to defend, and you had to be ready to defend. What's the point of a bodybuilder who works, has the best physique, but is a coward, right? It's useless. Yeah. You got the physical cue, but the reality of what it's supposed to represent is not there. So I think we've been so obsessed. I think this is when I deal with teens and youth, and this is how these charlatans online, these guys that Sheikh said that they're showing the Instagrams with the money, and they get 500,000 followers, and they get all the money, and the young men are obsessed with them. Why? Because they hit all the primitive cues. They got the money, they got the women, they got the physique, which is all the primitive thing that's supposed to be. So biologically, why are we impressed by a guy who can have 5, 6, 7 women? It's because it implies that this guy is a caretaker. He has a tribe under him. He has, that's what it implies. Nowadays, that's not it. He's a deadbeat, and he's the exact opposite. And so on and so forth. When you see a strong guy with the muscles, it implies that this guy is athletic, he's strong, he's reliable. But what it actually means typically is that he's super insecure. He spends a ton of time on his appearance. He takes steroids probably, and like so on. It's the exact opposite of what it's meant to represent. So biological, unless some people are gifted.
We're very pro steroids in this message.
Oh, no way. All right
then. We're not. Yeah.
So
I only use it for back pain.
I think we're in an epidemic today of the cue, the primitive cue of what something is supposed to represent versus what someone who really has it. And the Prophet ﷺ gave the principle. ليس الشديد بالسرعة ولكن الشديد من يملك نفسه عند الغضب. The strong person, the real strong person, is not the guy who just can just defeat someone else in a wrestling match, but the real strength is someone who can hold his anger. Someone who's genuinely dangerous, he can defeat someone else if he wanted to. He has the power to, but he got angry and he's like, no, you know what? I'll drop it.
So just let me clarify that the way Sheikh Walid said it is exactly what I'm trying to say, right? So I actually don't have respect for someone who's scraggly and everything is wrinkled and a mess and he smells bad, and that's not manly. That's just someone who doesn't know how to take care of himself. And I don't know if we're aware of how much looks are the big thing. For males, with the eyebrows, we got to the level of the eyebrows like this and this. There was a brother one time, he cut his hair somehow and he's just telling us about it. So he's trying to make him feel good. Yeah, I just praised his haircut. He started telling me about the next cut and the next color he's going to dye it. Oh. Then he got me on WhatsApp, and for the next couple of months, every time he dyes his hair, he sends me a picture. And next time I'm going to try this. And I'm like, if you only knew how little I care about your hair. I really don't care. But let's get to the anger thing. You know, so I have a khutbah on anger that I gave probably 2-3 years ago. It's still on our YouTube channel. But because there's some important points in it. And psychologists say that anger is a secondary emotion. And once you understand that, you'll understand why you're getting angry. What does it mean, secondary emotion? You know, when you're driving and then a guy like comes in front of you and you get really scared and you almost crash into him, but you swerve, nothing happened. What happens right after? Like first you got really scared, second what happens?
Anger.
You get very angry. So it's a secondary emotion. And why are you angry? For everyone it could be something different. But I hated that I got so scared and I felt so vulnerable and cowardly. Maybe even made it sound like, And now I feel so bad that this guy made me make that sound. So now I'm like, trying to be man you know. Or, and I read this in a psychology book like 18 years ago. And it took me many years to get it because, you know, and they're saying that when you get angry or when you erupt, it makes you feel like you're in control. Like you took control of your emotions and you took control of the situation. That this person made me angry, instead of like being a coward, keeping it to myself, which is not necessarily cowardly, but that's how it is now. So I let him have it, and I spoke my mind, and I screamed at him at the top of my lungs, and I stormed out of there. And that's why we go and tell each other about the time I gave someone a tongue lashing, a beating, verbally, right? What happens when someone says something, you go to your friend, and the guy said this, then I said, look, I swear to God, this, and I threatened him. Yeah, good job, man, good job. But that's the exact opposite of the hadith, because the strong person controls it. I'm coming to boast to you about how I went off on this guy. All the time, I went off on him. I let him have it. I screamed at him at the top of my lungs.
Yeah, in sports and yeah. Very true.
It feels like...
Speaking of the issue that you mentioned earlier, there is something came on YouTube and TikTok, and so many videos came out, which is guys complaining about work. Have you seen this? Like crying, like crying. There's too many customers. Starbucks have to start limiting the number of people. I saw a guy and he said, Starbucks has to stop to control how many people can make an order a day. This is too much. He might be overwhelmed, but when you see a bunch of people like that, guys, that's exactly what we're talking about. The issue of you're supposed to be providing, you're supposed to have that ability to fight, but you're not raised this way. You're raised to be a cupcake. To anything can you
cotton candy, Sheikh, sweet and soft.
So that someday you might need it. But again, it's important to keep that balance in mind. Being rough doesn't mean being rude, being angry, but being able to carry responsibility. It's really dropping the ball is something so weird in society today. Like I get burnt so many times, dealing with people doesn't show up. We have a program. I can't, Sheikh. Why? I just can't. You just drop the ball. That doesn't go. That's, for me, that's the opposite of being, taking responsibility, what it means
being a man of your word.
Yeah. That for me, that's what really masculinity or manhood or like being a real man is about. Your ability to take responsibility and to basically to be a leader, and part of it to be a role model. SubhanAllah, there is a concept in Islam, it's called, even book written, it's called al-futuwa. Al-futuwa, which is, masculinity is very, very much what it is. Written in old days, talk about the importance of raising a generation of men. In France, in World War II, they talk about that one of the reasons that we lost the war is because there's no strong French soldier. They were very feminine. They were very weak, very spoiled. You know? So one of the things that they talk about today even, you know, we don't want a society that it does not have people when a time of responsibility comes, when a time of toughness comes, we couldn't find any.
Yeah.
That's not gonna be correct.
Sheikh, it's happening right now. I knew about this a couple of years ago, and I confirmed this more than once with people in the army. You know, if you think about like the toughest thing you can go through, you most likely think of basic training in the army. I don't know how many weeks it is, but that's like one of the toughest things you can go through, basic training. Basic training has gone soft now, or softer. I just confirmed this a few weeks ago with someone, and he was telling me yes. So now, you know, in the beginning, you come off the bus and they're screaming at you and they're insulting you and all that stuff. Now, you can't yell like that. They get time off during basic training to check their phones.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, can you imagine basic training has become like that?
Sounds great.
Nobody looks surprised over here. Basic training was the roughest thing in the world. And now they give them time to check their phone. You cannot be demeaning to the recruits, hurt their feelings. Yeah? Taib, this guy's supposed to go meet bullets and landmines and bombs, and you're not hurt his feelings. But I'm not, by the way, I'm very not pro that kind of nonsense anyway. So I'm not saying
but using false language and abuse and stuff that we're not very good. Yeah. But you have to be certain level of that. Sheikh Abdurrahman. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say something. Like I also don't like the idea.
We have to wrap it up.
When people try to make something represent masculinity. I can't stand that. And it happens a lot, and you see it, like for example, guns. So now it's like loving guns that makes you a man, or if you don't like guns, you're not a man, or you want to make your son brave, take him out to the range. What is that going to do with anything? Or like, you know, with non-Muslims, beer also, a very manly thing, alcohol, how much you can chuck. That has nothing to do with being a man. And fighting has nothing to do with really just about you being a man at the end of the day. So beware of something equals being a man. Beware of those kinds of things.
Yeah, Jazakumullah Khayr. And I think just so we can leave here having answered.
Last point, everyone. Yeah.
So we can leave here having answered a question. What does it mean to be a man? Sheikh had answered what the surveys say when they ask young men who are coming of age and are going to have to be the next generation's fathers, you know, and leaders and whatnot. So that's obviously a messed up list. That's like all superficial nonsense that is just that doesn't last, and it explains why they see these charlatans online, these YouTubers and whatever, and they give them all their money, and they, you know, like, hey, teach me how to be a man. They say, oh, be tough, you know, it's nonsense. Whereas as when we took the survey here, and thing is, like when you said that when you do the survey in a masjid, they know what you're looking for, so they say it. So that means we know. It's not like it's hidden from us. But deep down we know. It's not as easy. It's a lot easier to say it's being a man is I can curse whenever I want and say whoever I want, say whatever I want to whoever. But it's harder to hold yourself and accountable and to speak like a man. Like a rajul عند كلمته, like Sheikh mentioned, that a man's word used to mean so much. Like in the past, al-mujawara, like giving your protection to somebody. Somebody could walk into Mecca or whatever town. Mecca is different, I guess. Any other town and say, I have the protection of Sheikh Walid in Texas here in Houston. And just by virtue of your name being mentioned, they'll go verify later, but in the moment, this guy could be an enemy, he can't be touched. Because that's how far a man's word goes. It was a big deal. Nowadays, a man's word means nothing. Because it's cool to lie, it's cool, like I deceived them and so on. So if we had to narrow it down, a man is capable. Capable means like he could act if he wanted, but he has the discipline not to. So capability, discipline, dependability, and some level of toughness. And that's where, I'll give you guys an exercise you can do, is that all the superficial cues that we take, by strength, strong body, athleticism, everything that was in that list, getting a bunch of women, whatever, being fighting a lot, all of those.
Six pack.
Six pack.
I have six pack.
Inshallah, there you go. That's I'm working my way towards
every person has six pack.
Yes. Yeah, that's true, actually.
Sometimes it's hidden under your fat.
Under the one pack.
Yeah.
But the challenge I would say to young men is that every single one of those superficial cues that we see, what is it meant to represent? That's what it is to be a man. So when the guy has a bunch of women, that's meant to represent him being capable, dependable, reliable, protector, and so on.
Well said. Well said. Okay, before we end with you, I have two quick points. Number one is there is a trick here, and I want to make sure, I hope I can express it clear. One of the trick of the mind, and shaitan if you want to say, when you talk about, for example, the man keep his word. So, does that means women don't need to keep their word? Man has to be earning person. So woman cannot be earning person? See how the person starts thinking? That's absolutely nonsense, that's wrong. That doesn't work this way. It's like when I say woman is, have a good heart. No man's supposed to think, I should not have a good heart. Woman should be support. The woman's supposed to be leading. Woman's supposed to be effective in society. Doesn't mean you can't do the opposite. So make sure that we don't get into this dilemma, especially from the sister side, because I know it's hard for someone all his life lived, fed the whole society around you. It make it men versus women, as if there is a constant struggle who control. I think it is men and women, not men versus women. Okay? So this can be very damaging to this topic when we start thinking this way. And I hope us as a Muslim, we can bring to the society at large this idea. That's not me versus her. It's like it's not men versus women. It's men and women. Everybody, they have their own qualities. Everybody, and I think these voices that we hear today from some, psychologists and people talk about these issues became very popular in society. I think Muslim can even have a better way of explaining that. Okay, and you should not be mad just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives certain favor for men or certain favor for women or certain responsibility for men. I don't get mad because, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give certain favor for children and adults get jealous and, it doesn't work this way. Everybody has his own set of rules and assignment and so forth. So I hope this is something that we keep in mind. The other thing that I want to say that I think in the Muslim community, I have been seeing among a lot of youth, they're both extreme, exactly like we see in society. Just make sure you don't need to go to these, just keep that in mind. Masculinity doesn't mean to be rude and rough and like all this kind of things, No, also, this idea of stripping you from your masculinity and making you feel shame to be a man, shame to be a boy, shame to be, the head of the household, the leader of the community, that I feel like leadership. You know what? You want to be a leader too? Be a leader. Nobody holding you. But you should not ever let someone strip you from that. And you don't reach that level. You don't deserve that just because you have a private part of a and I'm sorry to put it this way, of a male. No, you reach that and you deserve that because you earn that through your behavior, responsibility, leadership, and so on. So it's not about your biology. It's about your attitude. Otherwise, there is men worth nothing. Worth nothing. And, so it is so important for you to make sure that you understand that balance. It's not a bad thing to be a man. Today is not a cool thing, which is so sad in society. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given you this beautiful thing to be a man. Don't let Allah said in the Quran about the shaitan, وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. I will order them to change the way Allah created them. Allah created you a man, created you a woman. The moment you don't want to be a man, you can't be anybody else other than you. The best person you can be is yourself. If you start looking for someone else to be, you will not succeed. And that's what we see in society today. And the shaitan made a promise to Allah, I will make them, I will change in the way they created. Don't let anyone change you from the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made you. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, la'an Allah, Allah curse the men who act like women. The men who imitate women. And Allah curse the women who act like men, imitate men. There's a lot to be said, but I don't want to keep you long. There is a culture factor has to be understood. Not everything in Sudan, not everything in Egypt, not everything in my generation necessarily apply to your generation. I think there is a struggle for you guys as a young generation. You have to figure it out. You have to talk about it. You have to have a real open discussion about certain things in your age group with people with experience to give you a guidance. But there is a big area here. The culture is a factor, is a determined factor. So with this, I end what I have. We'll go this way, Sheikh Kamal, then Sheikh Rahman, and we end with that, inshallah, quickly.
People, maybe as a young male in America, you feel like there's been an assault on men, fathers, masculinity. A lot of laws are unfair, divorce, all kinds of things. Like the father is marginalized, the man is attacked all the time. So then when someone comes and they're defending masculinity and maybe even going a little overboard, that looks attractive. Because now we're just being reactionary, that we're kind of upset at what's going on and now this person is standing up for us. So beware of just rallying behind anybody who says anything.
Like Andrew Tate?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Tate, I've listened to some of the stuff he said, and some of the stuff, is okay, and sometimes, this is of course, before he became brother Andrew, I would hear some things and say like, this is outrageous, or this, not outrageous, but
excessive.
Yeah, or maybe like I would feel like some things were off. And Muhim, the point is, I want to say just a few things.
Un-Islamic.
Yeah, un-Islamic. The first thing is, when can two males in America, let's say you're 18, your buddy is 18, or you're both 21, when can you say I love you to your friend? When is it acceptable in America? Two males
When you're
say
gay.
I love you. That's very unacceptable.
They didn't
But
catch
when
it.
is it acceptable to say I love you to your friend?
I mean, in modern days, in society in America, when they are like gay, I guess.
There's another one outside of gayness. There's another, when you're drunk. You guys don't know this one?
I didn't
And
know
it's
that.
not I love you. It's I love you, man, like that.
Oh, that's
That
not-
one.
That's
In
wrong.
sports, some pats on the back side, acceptable, right? But how awkward I'm trying. My final word is don't be like the product of your environment,
Okay.
even though you know it's wrong. So, two of you now who are friends, next time you're in a room together, without sports, without loud noise, just look at your friend and say,
I love you, man.
exactly. And don't say no homo. You know this, Sheikh Wali?
You gotta say no homo, Sheikh.
You know this thing, yeah? This is the thing where
gotta do it.
if you tell your friend something a little bit affectionate or whatever, you say no homo.
You-
Ma'rufa. So,
No
so,
homo, Sheikh.
so do that, okay? Look at
Safety.
how we hug each other. Sheikh, do you ever analyze I call it the thug hug. You ever analyze the thug hug? When I went overseas some years ago, and I would hug people like we hug each other in America, and they didn't understand
What's going on?
Did you analyze this hug? The way we hug each other. Do you understand it? We go like this, and then we go like this. You see what's happening here? We're putting this
Barrier.
to create a barrier. So we don't go chest to chest now. Come on now. So we do this thing. There's a distance. And so I would hug people like this, and they don't understand. Why are you putting something between us? You understand?
Sheikh, you gotta,
Sheikh,
let us keep the hug, Sheikh.
Sheikh,
That's where I draw the line.
is it because, like, when I think overseas, when I go to Egypt and Palestinian cultures, there is like certain culture kida, when the men kiss each other's, oh my God, I can't take it. Like, he suck your lips. He suck your cheek with his lips. He's sorry. He suck your cheek with the lips. I was like, I have to like, But you know what? just look at this point. When this happened overseas, there is not a single man over there have a doubt about their manhood.
Yes, sahih. And they don't have to say.
You don't have to say no homo, because it's well established. Here, as if I need to defend and to, you know what, no, as if like this is gonna make me, feel like I'm not a man anymore.
Yeah.
It's very interesting actually how the culture plays
Paradox.
perception.
It's a big paradox.
I have a story that's so hilarious, but I can't say it unless we stop streaming. It's hilarious. It's about this culture of misunderstanding. Anyways, this is what my final. When the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr were leaving to Medina, they first went in the other direction. As you know, they went into Ghar Thawr, and they stayed there for 3 days. Now, Ghar we translate in English as cave, but a kahf is a cave, and Ghar we translate as cave also. But they're not the same thing. A cave can be huge and cavernous, and it can fit from 7 to 100 or 1,000 people. But a Ghar is an opening that it's so small, it only fits 2 to 3 people. That's a Ghar. Now go home, go on YouTube, and I keep saying go home, like people don't have phones anymore. Just YouTube Ghar Thawr and you'll see videos of it. You won't believe how tiny it is.
Yeah,
So
I
tiny.
went there. When you go there, I was wondering how the Prophet hide there.
Imagine 3 days there. So what happened when the Prophet and Abu Bakr made into Ghar? There's the narration of Abu Bakr checking for snakes and I was going to say louder, scorpions. Right?
Yeah.
Then what happened when everything was clear and they sat down? Today you just get on your phone. What did they do? The Prophet ﷺ put his head on Abu Bakr's lap and fell asleep. Bas. Look at that. Look at that friendship. Yani, Shaykh Abdul Rahman and I were giving this talk about the man, but right now if me and him went somewhere and I put my head on his lap, he'd be like, look, this is homo right now. This, get up. But yeah, I'm tired.
I'm from Brooklyn.
But just, look, you marvel at how amazing that is and how innocent.
But yeah, this is a culture thing. That's right.
It is a cultural thing, but I'm saying you can't, I don't know. I guess.
Sheikh, I think
You ruined it for me.
No, and this is why we keep running into, if we go scenario by scenario, we're always going to find, well, it changed over time and this and that. I think that's why I resorted to broad definitions like insecurity or determination or this or that. I think my final comment on this is that I really think this applies outside of masculinity, femininity, but let's keep it in our topic here, is that we really gotta, as American Muslims, we really gotta stop being reactionary in our understandings of things. We wait until they've given us a term and it became toxic masculinity, femininity, this or that, and then we say, we define everything we believe in as a reaction to what they've just accused, whether we agree or disagree. So there's a segment of our population, typically the more conservative brothers and sisters, their first reaction is rejection. Whatever you say. If you say men should cry, no, I don't do it. And then there's this typical other segment of the population, which is found in my neck of the woods in New York, more liberal-sided people, who are immediate acceptance until further notice. So why do we have to either? I think the strongest position we can have is, irrespective of what you guys say, I'm going to define things my way Islamically and move outwards from there. Yes. So, and the perfect example is the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he was kissing his grandson ﷺ, and then the man came and just was shocked, said, you kiss your children? I have 10 children, wallahi, never gave a single one of them a kiss. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say, no, guess what, I'm a man, I'll show you, I fight war. He didn't he didn't defend anything, nothing. He said, what can I do for you if Allah didn't put mercy in your heart? You're the problem. Like, your definition, your understanding of what it means, it was all delivered, the message. Your definition of what it means to be a man and strength and roughness is wrong, and this is correct, and what can I do for you if you don't have the mercy? I'm not going to defend my position. This is my position, this is the ilahi position, the divine position, and you can go and kick rocks if you like. And of course the man had no other choice but to submit. And that's, I think we should move outwards with our position. Go straight to the seerah. Men and women of the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his wives and his daughters and the Sahaba, exactly what did they do? And we move outwards. We shouldn't react to what they define, then we're playing catch up the entire time. To the liberals, to the conservatives, to these people, to that people. It puts us in that position where we're entirely defining our entire identity by what they've said plus minus. I think that's a bad starting point, and that's the root of all this conversation.
Allah. I think, Sheikh Kamal, I didn't ruin it for you. What I think your point is 100% valid. What you're trying to say, you're not trying to say, hey, put your heads on somebody else's lap.
Yeah,
Your
definitely
point
not.
is, it's not a shame for a man to show love and to show compassion, just to
Yes.
have that self-esteem.
Especially
when
with
they
your
do-
close
yeah.
friend. That was my whole
The
point.
Exactly.
Do
So-
this exercise. Tell your friend I love you tonight. See, everyone's laughing already. Don't you love him? Why can't you tell him then? What's the problem? You know,
Nabi
I
sallallahu
always tell people that I love them. I'm not talking about my family. Forget those people. I'm talking about any brother I love dearly. I always tell him I love them. Always. And I don't mean الحب في الله يا إني أحبك في الله. We try to Islamicize it. يعني, this is just for Allah. I don't really. لا يا حبيبي. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when I love someone, I tell them. Always. Why not? Life's short.
Inshallah. I think this should be tapped with another discussion, inshallah, one more time. There is a lot of things, but I really hope this can open a discussion or talk, and maybe we can hear from you guys next session more about this topic and about other topics as well. But I would like to talk about femininity as well. That's a whole entire also big movement exists today in our society. And it really will be interesting to have a guest of one of the sisters to speak about it as well. Inshallah ta'ala, maybe in the coming weeks. Thank you guys for coming out in this rainy night, and it's been a very long night for so many of you. But I want to remind we have several events going on in the community this weekend. One of it is tomorrow. I think there is a big gathering in MCC. Inshallah ta'ala, there is a gala. So make sure you get your ticket, you attend. Also coming soon, ICNA conference, Mass ICNA conference, or ICNA Mass conference, I don't know how it works. But yeah, coming in Thanksgiving, inshallah ta'ala. That's something that I think we should all, as a community, to be part of that and support it as well.
Are you going to be there?
Are
you out of town?
If I am in town, I do. In Thanksgiving, alhamdulillah, it's been a habit for me. In Thanksgiving, we always have a family dinner in Austin with my in-laws. So it become like something that we always, every year, and it became something I care to be there to see a lot of people that I don't see often. But if I'm here, inshallah, I'm planning to be, inshallah, Saturday, hopefully be there. But also, Sheikh Kamal also have a couple of events coming up until the end of December. Those who go for Umrah in November or in December, make sure that you basically make dua for us. And fall break coming, winter break coming. I'm looking forward to have some activity with you guys. And please keep in touch. Let's have some fun during this break. Deal? Assalamu alaikum.